Thank you very much for the board here, for the Congress to invite me to give a talk here. The title here has been given by the organizers, and I realize that this might be a little bit optimistic that we can boost CTGs, new CTGs, but let's see what I can do about that. I'm representing a center in Copenhagen that is called Copenhagen Center for Glycosylation. And it's a big center established for, been continuing and growing for the last 30 years, but primarily focusing on structures of glycans and which proteins that will be glycosylated. So a lot of the work there is the focus on both glycosyl structures and also which proteins that are glycosylated in this pathway through the ER, through Golgi, and secreted out of the cells. My background is definitely not in this CTG world. I'm coming from cloning genes in plants originally, changing to medical genetics, working with genes there, trying to identify new disease genes and to finding mutations in known disease genes. So closer to the mic, yeah. So my background is mainly as a DNA experimental person, coming from the laboratory and changing it to this glycosylation field now. And I've been there, and I have to shift it here, I think. So I have been in this world, but we're starting with the patient, family studies, whatever we have here, guess for a phenotype, try to see if we can figure out which genes might be mutated in that family, and by making good guesses, linkage analysis, family studies, starting to just Sanger sequencing in the beginning of different candidate genes and try to find the disease mutation and so on. And this is primarily what we can find in the CTGs also, as far as I can see from this meeting, also that we are starting with the patients, we're trying to find the genetic cause for this disease. It's primarily small families. I haven't seen any big families like this represented, so it's mainly sporadic cases, it's small families, and we are making good guesses and try to find the mutation in which genes it may be. And it has been accelerated dramatically by this whole exome sequencing, where you sequence there the whole genome, or you sequence all the genes, and try to figure out by filtering and so on to find which genes that have been mutated in this case here. The GlyMap, the idea of this GlyMap here, and that's where I have been involved in this project, and, is to turn things around and say now there are so many DNA data coming from next generation sequencing. Let's try to see what we can find in all the genes involved in glycosylation. Can we find some mutations in the populations, either the described one or new ones, that might cause a disease in, let's say, disease of glycosylation. So we started out to look in 2,000 Danes, well sequenced in a different project with a different purpose, and try to see can we find any damaging mutations in the Danish population. And then in that way go to a new disease gene. Again, what is glycosylation, or what structures do we deal with here? And you can see this is representing most of the glycan structures we have on the surface of the cell, either the lipid glycates or the N-glycosylations and the O-glycosylations and so on. And this is this figure that has been shown previously, and it's from Hotfree's recent review. And you can see the majority of the disorders described, and that is the genes also, they are involved in the N-glycosylation in this structure here. It's both the structures and all the transporters and what is involved in making these N-glycans. If you go through the next ones, you can see it is glucosamine glycans, that is one of the groups. We have something in the GPI anchors, that is sugar structures that anchor proteins on the surface of the cells. And we have these O-man-O structures, that is the muscular dystrophies, that is another group. They are coming up here during the last, let's say, 5-10 years. It started back in 1991, and it's 25 years now. We have about 100, more than 100 CDD diseases described. The rest of these structures here, there's very few known of these structures involved in diseases, so to speak. And the difference here is that most of these structures here, you have one enzyme, one enzymatic step. That's why we in the N-glycans can say if you have mutation, that genes is involved precisely in the N-glycan biosynthetic pathway. But most of the other structures here, we have redundancy. That means that for the first sugar that is put on this structure here, we have up to 20 genes. For the second sugar here, there are also 20 different genes that can take care of that, and so on. So we have a redundancy here. So if one gene is mutated, there will probably be another gene that will take over to do that enzymatic step there. So the GlyMab is trying to not focus on what is known today, but try to work out can we find anything that is involved in all these structures where we do not know any diseases right now. Again, the same structure, just to recapitulate that we have the biosynthesis of the glycan structures is in this direction, and the CTGs, they are involved in defects in this structure here. And again, phrasing, hot freeze. This is the definition he has in his latest review. Again, it is something altering structure and biosynthesis of these things. What about the degradation? It has been mentioned once or twice today. And there's this N-gly1 disorder coming up. It's called congenital disorder of deglycosylation. So the question is if this is a new part of glycosylation, deglycosylation diseases, disorders that's coming up there. So focus on the project we have been doing. We have starting with 2,000 Danes. We treat them, or we expect them to be healthy, despite they are 1,000 healthy and 1,000 that have been picked as type 2 diabetic. And they have been sequenced with the purpose to find genes involved in this type 2 diabetic without success. But we are using these data, complete exome sequence data. Out of that, we have picked there are 208 glycosyl transferases. That's the enzymes that put on sugar structures either directly on the protein or building the glycan structure on there. So we have looked into these Danes and the exome data for these glycosyl transferases. At that time, we compared it with 6,500 control individuals coming from an American database where they were public. We tried to predict for deleterious variant SNPs, non-synonymous switch SNPs here. And so the criteria for selecting these ones that should be present in more than, what I'm saying, 2 to more than 3 alleles, that should be more than 3 individuals that having these ones. We should test them either with our knowledge about the protein structure and function, or we could use 3 different predicting servers to say, this variant, this SNP here, does it cause a defect in the protein that will damage the protein so it will not be functioning? And lately, we will experimentally validate some of these results we found up here in the laboratory to prove it is correct that they are not functioning, these proteins. So the data here is that out of 2,000 individuals, so many genes, we found so many different variants in there, in these 200 genes. It represent about 1% of the entire genome. And out of these, there were so many here, 1,700, and I can hardly see it. This is 26% that represent SNPs that affect the coding region, that affect the protein function, and so on. That might affect the protein function. And if we test these ones here, again, the distribution is that we can find so many that is only Danish variants. There are so many in common with an African American population, so many in common with European American population, and so many we can find in all 3 populations. You can see here the national differences with respect to variations in all these genes with respect to glycosylation. The next thing is to find out which ones are present in more than 3 individuals, 3 or more individuals, and we are going down from 700 and from something to something that is about, 500. And again, there are 70 only found in Denmark, and so on in the other different populations, and we have so many in common with all 3 populations. Now we have filtered it to find the ones that we predict should be damaging for protein function, and then might lead to, if they are present as either homozygous or compound heterozygous, are in 2 doses, in an individual to cause a kind of a CDG. And here we end up with 52 total, where, what is it, 6 of them that we can find in the Danish population. The rest, they are found in all 3 populations or in 2 of them. So the next step will be to test these ones. If we look at these SNPs, what we have here on the x-axis is the severity. Let's say we have a mutation that has a high MAF value. That means that it's minor allele frequency. There's a high number of carriers here. Most of these ones here, where we can find in a lot of carriers, they are not involved in any kind of diseases. They are like blood type groups, like ABO and so on. If we're going down with respect to number of individuals where we can find these mutations, we will come down to here that there are very few of them in the population, and that's where we find these CTG mutations. And in between, we have these subtle, might have these subtle phenotypes that we have some alleles that are represented to a certain frequency, and they are giving wild phenotypes compared to these ones. And if we continue here, we can see the majority of the variants we found, they are down here where they are represented in less than 3 individuals. That's what we call the private mutations. That here where we find all the CTG mutations. Most of these are only found once or twice. They are private in the population and so on. And there are very few up here that have an effect on anything. So, the GlyMap here wants to say there's a lot of people involved in this severity. The severest diseases here, they are very good. We are not good at all. We are not involved in patients. We are not involved in medical studies and all. We try to see if we can find something else that is giving a more subtle phenotype, a more common phenotype in these very rare CTGs. These ones here, they can be found by family studies, by studying patients. These other ones here, we try to lift it to a different level, different perspective with respect to mutations and that affect the glycosylation. So, what did we find in these 2008 data? We found some mutations that already have been published. We only found these, 9 mutations, 2 of them, they have polymorphisms. It's not very many that fits with that. It's a very rare disease. There are very few carriers in Denmark. We don't have very many CDG patients in Denmark. This is a founder mutation found back in the 90s with this PMN2, the CDDA1, that we could confirm that it is a founder mutation in Denmark in this population out of 2000. If we use this number here, we can say 1 out of 60 to 70 individuals in Northern Europe, they are a carrier, especially of this mutation here. And that's why this is so frequent in that region of the world. The rest is just very few of them, less than, I mean, this one here is a polymorphism, the other one is this is also a polymorphism. They are represented at a very low level. With respect to the blood types, of course, we found some variants there that are registered in the literature. If you look at these things, we can see this is a representation of one of these groups where we have 20 enzymes primarily taking care of the same reaction. They found this number of different variants that could be interesting. In another group where we also have 20 genes, we found this very low number. In a third group, here we found this number of variants that could be interesting out of these 20 genes. So it is not very many that we could filter out that could be interesting for experimental test. So we, in fact, did choose to test these ones here experimentally. They represent 135 in all. These ones here, we tested 14 to see if we could predict correct which one is damaging, which one is not damaging. And we used these prediction servers, and we did our own prediction by knowledge about these enzymes. And what did we do? In fact, these proteins, the glycosyl transferases, they all have a catalytic domain that is taking the sugar and put it on a sugar structure, a protein structure. There is a binding domain here, and they're sitting in the membrane, so there's a transmembrane domain here. We are taking this part of the gene, put it into a plasmid system, introducing the mutation, making all this series of constructs. We made 20 different constructs, or double 20 because some of them with mutations, some of them without mutation, and we tested them in a cell system. We purified the protein. We made an assay to see is this transferase able to transfer a sugar molecule to a protein. And we made some Maldi-Toff mass spectra to see what the results is. And the results is looking like this. This is the wild type. You can see this peak here is shifting position to up there. That means during a time course, we have a sugar added to this peptide protein structure we have up here. If we have this mutation here, we don't get any shift in this peak here. So that means that if we introduce this mutation in this in the gene, in the protein, it is not able to put a sugar structure on this peptide up here. So that's the way we could test if the functionality of these enzymes mutated or not, or how they are doing. So the results, and this is the peaks, and the results, they are here. And out of these 20, in fact, that we tested, some of them were controls, we were only able to find 2 that were inactive in our test assay. Despite that all these with a D here for deleterious or damaging, either by our own prediction or by generally used prediction servers and the internet using bioinformatics, we can see that some of them here, they are predicted to be damaging, all of them, but they are still active. So what does that tell us? That is telling us that, first of all, these prediction servers here, they are not very good to predict what the consequence is if we have amino acid change in the protein. Secondly, we are not better than the prediction servers to do these things. So only 2 out of these 20 we tested here turned out to be inactive. And that inactivity is completely dead, so to speak. There is no activity at all. In between, we can have, of course, that some of these mutations here can reduce the enzyme activity from, let's say, 100% down to 20% or 40% or whatever it is, that we are not able to measure here. But the effectiveness of this enzyme is also can also cause consequences of how good it is working in double dose. So one of these is only found in Denmark, and the other one is found here in all 3 populations. So what is coming up here? So this is the result of these things, and it also tells us that we are not very good to predict damaging variants. So out of this GlyMap-1, where we looked at all the glycosyl transferases in these 200 ones in 2,000 Danes, we could find in total 22 that we could predict to be damaging. They were found in 13 of the genes where we already know that were being involved in diseases, and there were 21 genes that are without any phenotype yet. And if we get down to the experimental testing of these things, we could only find 2 out of 20 that we tested. And for the one gene is GALNT5, there's no reports at all what it is. If we look at a phenotype, what is the defect of these if you have a mutation in that gene? This gene here has been reported both in some kind of tumor or cancer development. Recently, there's also one here, the novel neuroblastoma prediction is quite a recent publication. And then there is one publication that's saying that this gene here is lethal. That means if you have mutation in that gene, you cannot survive. You will not get birth. These things are all published in the publication here. Again, the next step here is looking into glycosylation, we can call it. There's all the hydrolases involved in degradation of glycostructures. And again, here we have well-described disorders here. There's lysosomal storage diseases. NGLY1 is belonging to this one here, and there are several other very well-described disorders in these ones here. There are and again, it just to see the difference, to show the difference here. This is the biosynthesis. Here we are lacking, we are missing a glycostructure that is probably more severe than if we have degradation of a glycostructure, where we have accumulation of these degradation products of what is missing. And that's why we can find more patients with defects in these hydrolases than we can find patients with defects in the biosynthesis and the glycosyltransferases. And we are doing this, and again here, with these structures here, there are well-described degradation of the N-glycosylation pathways. It's both in the Golgi apparatus, in the lysosomes, in the aminoglycans, and also for the, what is it, I can't see what it is, the sphingolipids. I mean, these pathways here we can find several disorders, genetic disorders, and the number of patients is pretty high with some of these ones here, especially down here. The rest of these structures here, the degradation of this one is not very well described. There's probably some overlapping with respect to hydrolases that degrade these structures. Again, it's the same strategy, taking these individuals here, looking into if we can find any damaging mutation, testing them in the laboratory. We have 88 hydrolases in humans, and if we look into the number of variants, we can see there is totally, what is it, 3,900 in total, and what is affecting the protein structure, it's down to 1,100. So it's comparable to what we find with the glycosyltransferases. If you make the next filtration here, you can see if we filtrate for allele frequency, try to predict anything with respect to damaging, we can find 67 in non-disease genes and 54 in disease genes. So the number of mutations you can find in the Danish population where we already know something about the genes is pretty higher than we can find for the glycosyltransferases, and we also have a number of disease-associated genes there. Again, phase 3 is to test these things, and as an example, in this ongoing projects, we have this in sucrose isomaltase. It's far away from a CTG disease, but it's degradation of sugar structures in the intestine, and we can see we can find four that is of interest here. 2 of them have already been described in the literature. 2 of them have been tested in a laboratory in Germany by Dr. Naim here. And you can see the 2 ones that are not described here are highly conserved among mammals. So on, the activity of these ones here is reduced. It's not completely dead. This one here is reduced with respect to one activity. The other activity of the same enzyme is almost the same, identical. The other mutation here is almost having the same enzymatic activity. But if we look at the transportation out of the Golgi apparatus, you can see this is the wild type that is going to the surface of the cells. These ones here, they are stuck into some Golgi apparatus and cannot get out of the cell. So both mutations will have an effect on secretion of this enzyme here, and also this one will have an effect on the function of this one here. The other one is also in progress, and it is this NGLY1 that has been found quite recently. And if we look into the Danish population, we can find so many SNPs, and almost all can be predicted damaging. 2 of them could be found in so many 3 individuals, each of them. One of them is the one that has been published several times now, and is called maybe a founder mutation, is this gene here. And it can also be found in the Danish population with an allele frequency that corresponds to what we can find in the American population. The other one is also predicted to be damaging. We need to get it experimentally proved. And it can be found in the big population cohort here of 33,000 individuals with allele frequency that is not the same, it's much less than the Danish one. And this one here might be a defective mutations that we will see sooner or later in the disease person. So to summarize, There are so many glycosyltransferases, so many disease genes, so many hydrolases, so many known disease genes. So there are still still genes that we can link, if possible, to any disease. The findings in the glycosyltransferases that we tested, 20 we found 2 damaging. We can find a very little number of reported mutations, so it's not so easy to find, but we found 2 dead alleles in these genes in the Danish population, and we have tested 2 for the hydrolases, and we found so many in different genes, and it is ongoing what we are going to do with these ones here, and that is the experimental test here. And if we want to see the data, what we have in the Danish population, you have to go through this CASI database, that is a big structural database for sugar interacting, carbohydrate interacting enzymes, and under each of these glycosyltransferase families, you can get to the Danish data with information about these variants we have in the Danish population. So this is so far we have got with this project with respect to boost the CTGs. We're trying to make a completely different angle to work these things out. We are not trying to find these very rare and diseases, CTGs, that everybody in here, all the experts, they are experts on and know everything about, but we are trying to find other diseases that might be more common than these CTG diseases by looking at all the genetic variations that is in the that is known from all these exome sequences for the human population. So thank you for giving me opportunity to make this talk, and the group I'm representing is up here. This is a relatively new picture, and we are about 30 to 40 persons focusing on primarily glycosylation structures, which proteins that are glycosylated. We are in the business right now of knocking out genes in cell systems, individual genes in this glycobiology biosynthesis to see what is the effect of these, knocking these ones out, try to get what are they doing in reality, these enzymes. And these are the 5 people that are closely related to this project here. Fundings are mentioned here. The data is coming from Lundbeck research projects, and that is all for now.